Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is One Piece East Blue Saga Warship Island Arc, Episode 54, Foreboding of a New Adventure, The Puzzling Girl, Apis. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So, the episode begins on a very stormy night with a Marine going into what he thinks is an empty room to feed a prisoner who doesn't appear to be there. Then we see the door start to close, and Apis, who was behind the door, comes out with a little bit of a boo-boo on her face and tries to escape, except then she trips, gets grabbed. She starts kicking, kicks a place a man doesn't want to be kicked, manages to get herself free, runs out onto the deck. All the Marines start chasing her. She climbs up into the crow's nest, starts cutting all the ropes and everything, which opens the sail in the middle of the storm, causing the boat to tilt and one of the lifeboats to fall into the water, and she then jumps into the lifeboat. We then return to Luffy and the crew, where it's revealed that they've been 2 days away from Log Town and are on their way to the Grand Line, and Usopp in the crow's nest happens to see a bunch of birds circling something in the water, which he can't tell if it's a boat or a fish. And so Luffy then stretches his arm out to grab whatever it is and grabs Apis from the boat, bringing her on board. She wakes up, is scared of the fact that they are pirates, and so basically refuses to interact until the middle of the night when Luffy gets caught in a giant mouse trap trying to steal food from the fridge. Sanji then comes in, feeds them both. Once she tastes Sanji's cooking, it's so good that she starts to trust them. She then realizes that they're good people, not evil pirates, and tells them that the reason she was in the boat was because the Navy was chasing her, but she can't tell them why. They accept this fact and decide that they are going to take her home, and her home is Warship Island, and it is named that because it looks like a war ship. And so they change their route, but as they change their route, the Navy catches up. And we learn from the Navy side that the Commodore Nelson Royal wants Dragonite, which he believes the girl knows the secret to, and he has hired a mercenary, Eric, to get it, and he sends Eric out after Apis with his crew. And Eric happens to be on the ships that spot Luffy's crew, and it is revealed that the guy in the crow's nest is able to see that Apis is on deck. They start to chase. Thanks to her Hiso Hiso no Mi, or Whisper Whisper Fruit, Apis is able to hear the birds talking about a wind coming, and Nami, with her supernatural sense of changing weather and weather patterns, that she always seems to instinctively know when the weather's about to change, realizes from that which direction the wind's going to come. They adjust everything to send them riding the gust away from the Marines, and they do manage to successfully get away. However, they then end up stranded in the calm belt where there is no wind, and Zoro is the one who realizes that they haven't been moving for a while. So now that we've been reminded about what happened, it is now time to rank the episode. As always, we'll rank first on the mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking. So first we have our single arc supporting character introductions. This is Commodore Nelson Royal, who is awful. Like Jabba the Hutt type awful. And then we've got Lieutenant Hardy, who is on the ship that Eric ends up assigned to. And they're worth 1 point each. Then worth 2 points each, we have our single arc main character introduction, and that is Apis. And then the villain who does the most chasing and interfering, Eric. Then we have worth 4 points, our multi-arc main character growth, and Luffy reveals a new use of his rubber fruit in the Gomu Gomu grab that he does to get Apis off of her little boat. And then we have another 4 points for the world building piece, which is that they have arrived at the calm belt and the existence of the calm belt. It may have been mentioned before in explanations about the Grand Line, but this is our first interaction with it on screen, so that is why I am counting it as world building. However, there are also some negatives. So right now we're at 14, but the first negative is that there is no main plot significance. This is a filler arc, which means every episode in this arc is going to be filler, except potentially the last one. We'll wait and see on that, but most of the episodes, at least, will be filler, not part of the main plot, and therefore it is minus 4 points, which brings us to 10. And then we also have our negative messaging or behavior, which is worth another 2 off. And that is the fact that Apis was kidnapped by the Navy and held prisoner against her will by the Navy. Kidnapping and imprisonment, not good things. So minus 2 points. And that does leave this as an 8 out of 10 episode. Of course, it is the first episode within this arc, and therefore it is currently first place. Foreboding of a New Adventure, The Puzzling Girl Apis. My personal ranking, I agree with the objective ranking for different reasons. First off, there was a lot of comedy in the episode, which I found entertaining, obviously. It set up the premise for this filler arc very well. We know who the enemies are, we know what they are after, we know that she has this secret. We get introduced to the calm belt, which we haven't seen before, which is also funny because it's Zoro, the one who's always lost, that happens to notice that the clouds aren't moving, the sail's not full, the flag is hanging limp, and then he even like says to Nami, "It might be my imagination, but I don't think we've been moving for a while." And then of course she realizes where they are and freaks out. I think the villains are particularly dislikable, which with villains, you want them to be dislikable because when you have villains like Buggy, where they're so likable, it makes it very hard to root for the heroes to win. So the fact that these villains, Eric and Nelson, are incredibly dislikable is good because we will root against them as we should root against villains. And like I said, overall, there was comedic moments throughout the entirety of the series. Apis tries to cook breakfast for the crew, ends up completely burning it, it ends up being incredibly spicy. Only one who likes it is Luffy. We've got the fridge mousetrap. We've got Apis's escape, which was funny. So overall, I think it was a very entertaining episode. And as this list is more about entertainment value, I think 8 does suit it, which is why it is also 8 out of 10. And of course, Foreboding of a New Adventure, The Puzzling Girl Apis is currently in first place, as it's the only episode so far. Which brings us to our saga ranking so far, where we're ranking each of the arcs within the East Blue Saga so far. And this is the last arc of our East Blue Saga, so that's exciting. But our list so far on the mostly objective side, we have Romance Dawn arc, followed by Arlong Park arc, Logtown arc, Orangetown arc, Baretti arc, Spirit Village arc, and then the Buggy side story arc is currently last place, but Warship Island arc is starting out with an 8 out of 80. Then our personal ranking, Buggy side story arc is obviously in first, followed by Arlong Park arc, Orangetown arc, Romance Dawn arc, Logtown arc, Baretti arc, and Spirit Village arc is in last place. Warship Island arc is of course an 8 out of 80 as well. And then our series ranking so far, a reminder, East Blue Saga is currently at 41 out of 80 on the mostly objective ranking and at 34 out of 80 on the personal ranking. But with that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Piece East Blue Saga Warship Island Arc, Episode 54, Foreboding of a New Adventure, The Puzzling Girl Epis. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.